Hi, welcome to our virtual session, a daily dose of DigCit Bell Ringer edition. We're super excited you're here. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Kira, and we are digital learning specialists with Jordan School District.
So we just want to start by setting our learning intentions. Before this is over, we would love for you to understand what digital citizenship is and what it's going to look like for your learners in your classroom.
And one of our other intentions for this session is we want to be able to help teachers implement digital citizenship strategies with your learners quickly, efficiently, and right away.
And lastly, we just want you to feel empowered to incorporate DigCit effectively, because sometimes I feel like when you say digital citizenship, it seems like this big thing and it's kind of vague. We want you to just bring it down and make it super easy to implement in your classroom. So why DigCit, Kira?
So we take this quote from the CEO of ISTE and ASCD, Richard Culata. He wrote a great book called Digital for Good, where he talks a lot about how digital citizenship can really empower our students as learners and as participants in both the physical and digital world. But this quote that we pulled from him, we really like. It says, "A lot of life happens online. We want to empower students to use tech to solve problems and balance their time on and offline." And so one of the things that we found really helpful when thinking about digital citizenship is we don't want to see it as just another thing, but rather it becomes the filter through which we do all of our learning, so that anytime we touch a screen, and this is something that we'll iterate over and over again in this session, anytime that we touch a screen or that our students touch a screen, be it for learning, for entertainment, for connection, that they are thinking about and practicing what it means to be a good digital citizen.
I also think, going back to Richard Culata, it's going to sound like we're fangirling out, but he said, it shouldn't just be a list of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's hard to practice don'ts. So when we built our digital citizenship decks, we really had in mind of things they could practice and things that could even be positive in their world. It's not just the internet's scary, being online scary. We want it to be positive. So these are some stats that we thought were super important to include because our kids are online a lot. And this is an average, and you might be like, it's way more or that's way less, but just an average. So 8th to 10th graders spend about 3.5 hours online per day. This could include being at school, being at home, maybe, it's both, maybe it's only one of them. Adults, however, spend about 7 hours a day online. And I can say for our jobs, that's very true. And then I like to reward myself from working on my big screen with my little screen. So I'm probably spending a little bit more time online that way. What do you think, Kira?
Well, and I agree. These statistics can be, at first glance, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so much time online. But it's important to remember that not all screen time is created equal.
Yep.
So the things that we do online for fun may not be the same level of complexity or rigor as something that we may doing online in school for learning. And vice versa, right? Some of the stuff that we're doing online in schools may not be as complex as we would like them to be. And the stuff that we're doing at home on our personal time may be super engaging and super complex and rigorous. The point of the matter is that we do spend a lot of time on screens. And so acknowledging that, recognizing that it's a big part of our world, we shouldn't just take the devices away. We should empower and teach our students so that they have a skill set where they can engage thoughtfully and productively online because it's a fact of their lives.
With that being said, one more statistic. About 17 years of your adult life may be spent online. I think a little more of mine, I might have a little more years in there. But again, like Kira said, it's the difference between passively consuming and actively consuming. So if I'm on a FaceTime call with my kid, or I'm emailing because I need to I don't know if I'm emailing correspondence, but emailing to solve a problem, I think that's way different than me just doom scrolling, which there's nothing wrong with a little doom scroll. So why DigCit? We want to prepare our learners for the future with good digital citizenship and digital literacy skills needed to navigate their futures. I know we said this was DigCit, but we also think digital literacy has a place inside of there because they kind of like weave themselves together.
Yeah. And one thing to think about when we're talking about digital citizenship is that it can feel very overwhelming because it can be kind of like an abstract concept, right? You can't touch a digital citizen. It's more about the behaviors and ways of thinking that we want to encourage in our students when we talk about digital citizenship. And likewise, digital literacy, these are skills that we want them to practice, being able to analyze and critique and evaluate and compare and doing all these like rich thinking skills because we're preparing them for a world that doesn't exist and so giving them this foundation is at least a starting place when we're thinking about the online world and all the many good things that are possible and also some of the bad things that are a reality when we talk about online spaces.
Agreed. I think of like DigCit as like keeping our learners safe and teaching them how to use like the online world respectful, like and responsibly. And then digital literacy is like teaching them how to think critically so they can navigate the digital world. So we've just talked about this. This is really our goal is we want to keep our learners safe, connected, happy, and healthy. Anything you want to say about that? I think we just said a whole bunch.
Yeah, all of those things. Like this is our goal when we talk about digital citizenship. And with our presentation, we wanted to do all these things in a way that was easy for teachers to do, to incorporate, and that it could become a regular part of instruction instead of just once a year checklist.
I agree because I feel like sometimes it's like white ribbon week, done. Our one annual digital citizenship assembly, check. So we want to move beyond that. So when we started like looking at what we wanted and how we wanted to build like our DigCit bell ringers or like our DigCit decks, we looked at like I looked at the elementary strands, Kira looked at the secondary strands. So this is for all of elementary in Utah. If you look at strand 14, this is under the media literacy, just like understand and practice safe and responsible use of information and technology. So that's in there. And then identify issues and consequences of misuse of media. So I do like that there's a framework there, but it just seems like very vague, very open to interpretation. So then I looked inside the computer science standards for Utah, and there is some stuff in there like making sure you keep your password safe, like explain what a password is, why we should make one. There's some language in there, but it just wasn't enough that I was like, I want to base an entire like curriculum around this. So Kira was looking at the secondary ones.
And a very similar, like in the state of Utah, we don't have a dedicated digital citizenship curriculum that has been approved at the state level. And so we can find pockets of digital literacy and digital citizenship in the different content areas. But like Tracy said, it's not universal. It's like kind of hidden in library media standards or computer science standards. These ones that I pulled come from the English language curriculum. So being able to interpret, evaluate, and integrate multiple sources of information in various formats. It doesn't really say like explicitly digital, but you would assume where can you find multiple formats of things? Obviously online would be included in that. Or being able to evaluate the credibility of multiple sources to solve problems and make informed decisions. So you can see how they are like in these pockets. And so that can be very easy for teachers to dismiss digital citizenship because they can say, oh, that's just one more thing. I have enough on my plate, which they do. We want to emphasize that we recognize that teachers have and do a lot every day. But we want to make the argument that digital citizenship is super important and can help you teach your content even better when you reinforce these digital citizenship skills as part of your regular teaching.
I think for sure, like if you're integrating digital citizenship, like you said, it's gonna like hopefully cut down on the amount of time you're gonna like give to like, hey, that's not what we do when we're in a chat room or like when we're doing like a collaborative project with each other, if we're doing discussions. So like, I think it would cut down if it was being like taught, like front loaded. So we were looking like, so we looked at our standards and we were like, there's a good framework there. But we wanted to dig deeper. So Kira and I both took the digital citizenship class from ISTU. So good. I loved it so much. So much information. It had us look at different curriculum, like free curriculums, which was great. And kind of decide how we want to go from there. We decided we decided to base ours on the DigCit competencies from ISTE because we felt like they just really encompassed what we were looking at. And so we're balanced, informed, inclusive, engaged, and alert. And then we took those and we kind of looked also at the digital citizenship standards from ISTE. So we kind of used all of those and tied it together in a neat little bow.
And I will say that by choosing the digital citizenship competencies from ISTE, we wanted to kind of steer away from a list of don'ts, like Tracy said earlier. And so we felt that these competencies were broad enough and could be used in a proactive way, right? That kids can actually engage with these proactively instead of being told, no, you don't do that, don't do that. But again, empowering them to make choices about how they act and behave in online spaces.
When we were going through that class, and I know that everyone's looked at this before, we looked at the Common Sense media and their education on DigCit. It's beautiful. We just were concerned about the time and the prep involved. So 45 minutes doesn't sound like a ton of time, but if you were like, where am I going to fit 45 minutes in? That's rough. Even though they have this little Speak Quicker lesson right here, it still wasn't fast enough. We wanted it to be fast and easy to implement and almost zero prep. So we loved these, but we looked at them and thought, let's make it a little bit shorter. So in developing this, we also have a digital citizenship, that's really big, a DigCit website for our district. And we talked about this, we think anytime you crack your computer open, you should be talking about some form of digital citizenship. It could just be hey, today when we're in our discussion or when we're on our collaborative whiteboard, please remember to use kind language and make sure you're doing the right thing, whatever. But we would love it to be celebrated daily.
Yeah, which is totally the idea behind the resources that we developed. We wanted them to be quick, easy to implement, low barrier to entry, but open-ended so that teachers could take them as far or as much as they wanted to as they incorporated them into their content.
So we just broke our stuff up. When we look at our resources, it'll be some elementary bands and secondary bands because we wanted it to be useful and applicable to the grade levels. We did talk about how we don't just want it to be a one and done, but Kira and I have done one and dones, and we're always happy to do it. So we did an assembly several years in a row just for a group of 8th graders, which DigCit, that's totally what they wanted to talk about that day, we could tell. And so we went and did it, and the first year we're not bad. We could improve for sure, but not bad. And so we got asked to do it again, and we're man, can we just make it better than last year? They say it's better than last year, we'll feel validated. So we did it, we revamped it because we're let's, change up some things. And this was a direct quote. One of the teachers goes, hey, that was better than last year. And we were elated.
Yes. That's all we wanted.
That's it, man. So we love we love getting the message out there. We just wanted it to be more than hey, do you guys remember digital citizenship? I know it's, whatever time, but remember this all year or the end of the year. Remember it through summer. We've talked about this a lot. I'm going to let you talk about it some more.
Yeah. So that kind of gives us a background as to what digital citizenship is, why it's important, the process we went through to develop kind of our understanding of digital citizenship. But for this specific resource, we wanted it to be fast, to be easy to use, little to no prep for teachers, because again, we wanted the entry barriers to be really low, especially no cost, and we wanted it to be fun.
Yeah. So we did, we're in love with ISTE, if you couldn't tell. So we based it again, just so in case you were wondering, we based it around their standards. And you'll see these throughout our slide decks. So it'll be a whole section on like being inclusive or informed or engaged, balanced, and alert. And you can go through these decks and teach it. Just you're teaching the inclusive part right now, or the informed, or you could, pick and choose however you want, or you could look at our decks and be like, I could do this better. And you can make your own deck. We would love that too. So you can see our decks are here. We have like a K2, a 3-6, and then we have our secondary deck. So I'm just going to click on this K2 deck. Is that showing on your screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So it'll give some directions at the beginning. So this is, again, just reiterating, super fast, prep-free discussions that will help you infuse DigCit on the reg in your classroom. So how to use these slides. If they're all the same color, teach them together. If they're different colors, teach them separately. So looking at these slides, it's going to give some background. So here's our balanced slides. It talks about what balanced students are. So this is just one you could start off with here. This is K2. How can you tell you've been on a device too long? And just have that simple conversation like Kira said. You could go like way far into it. You could like make a list on the board, talk about it, talk about other things, or you could just have like a conversation, like a little turn and talk, whatever you want to do. Make a list of things you could do that are screen free. Here's a little list for the kids to look at. Again, you could have them just make the list to their partner, make the list on the board, whatever they want to do. Oh, sweet. All right, so another thing you could do with your littles, make a list of things you could do that are screen free. Again, you could do it like just like having them turn and talk. You could have them raise their hands. You could write it on the board. You could have them write it, or it could just be a conversation. We want these to be just so simple. So these two were different colors. So obviously different days. Then you'll get into some that are like grouped together. So it'll give you words to know like digital veggies, help us learn, create, and connect with family and friends. It'll go through them. They're active. You're engaging with others. And then again, make a list of digital veggies. Like what are things that you can do online or with screens like that will help us like connect and create. So I might think like when they're little, maybe like a video call, or if they're making like on a Canva, like a Canva card for someone, things like that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, just that we again want them to be quick, easy, and then also maybe a starting place for you to come up with digital citizenship topics that you can use as bell ringers to teach digital citizenship daily.
Absolutely. So we've switched to another color. So this again is a whole new set of slides. So digital veggies was like done. That's like a one and done. That was one day. And the next day you could do digital candy. The next week you could do digital candy. So if I do like a little speed run, you can see there's a whole bunch of different colors. And then that was all of our balance. Then you're coming into the informed and you'll see like a slide indicating, hey, these are the informed decks slides. It'll give you a definition of what informed students would look like. And then again, it will take you through there. How can you tell when something's real or fake? You'll still be on the same decks, talking about digital detectives. And then we tried to make it like relevant. Like, look at this picture. Do you think, is it normal? Is it fake? Talking about how to look for mistakes. AI hasn't mastered hands as of this recording. Maybe when we're at ISTE, it will have. And just when in doubt, ask your mom, dad, teacher, or trusted adult. And then just some fun things that are going to be engaging for your students. If this does not float your boat, we won't be offended. Like if you want to go make your own decks, absolutely. I will say my best friend Gemini and I thought up a lot of the things that are in here, but like, again, I just used it as a helper. And then me and Kira both went and made our decks. So that's how to go through a deck. There's a lot of information and you're seriously welcome to use them, base your decks on them, whatever you'd like to do. Just to close this out, we really do want our kids to be winners, like on and offline. Like we want them to feel like they're safe and secure and they can critically evaluate like things they're being shown online so they know if that's real, if that's fake, if that's safe to click on. We don't want them to be winners and click on this, obviously, outside their screen. And that's why we want them to be good digital citizens, good DigCit people, and have good digital literacy.
Yes. Amen to that.
Well, thank you for spending this quick 20 minutes with us. If you want to talk to us about DigCit, we would talk to you all day. So here are our contacts. We also do have an Instagram and we like to post just different things that are happening in our district digital wise. We during DigCit week, even though we don't want to just narrow it to a week, we'll post a whole bunch of stuff, but also throughout the year, we try and post things.
Yeah, exactly. So please reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like to collaborate. We'd love to support digital citizenship wherever you are.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.